Good evening and welcome to Sigma Virtual Hour. My name is Akasi OG. I'm the Virginia Area Director for Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I'm excited to be here as your host this evening for this very special Sigma Virtual Hour. This month is entitled "A Voteless People is a Hopeless People." This is a series of chats that we started, believe it or not, over 4 years ago in the middle of the pandemic. Though we were all locked in our homes without a lot we could do, we didn't see that as an excuse for why we shouldn't still do our best to inform our communities about important topics. Topics have ranged from health to education to finding ways to keep our kids off of video games. Um, this is a opportunity for us in our community to really talk about those things that are important. Now, today's topic, I think, is so timely and so important because we're talking about the civic duty that each and every one of us have. I laugh and think about I'm a TV junkie and I was watching the latest episode of All American Homecoming or a recent episode, and there was many people in this episode who were disenfranchised about voting and participating in the voting system because who says my vote's going to count? Who says that me expressing my interest, checking one box or the other, is going to make a difference? Well, our ancestors died, fought blood, sweat, and tears to give us this right. So, in my opinion, it's our responsibility to live up to that legacy. The gentlemen I have with me today are not just living up to that legacy of passing their vote, but they're also seeking your vote. They're seeking to be servants of our community. I'm excited and overjoyed that these brothers took the time to join us today. I'm going to allow each one of them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to come back and we're just going to have a conversation. I hope that's okay with everyone. But that's the plan for the day. So the first brother who's going to introduce himself is Brother El Jamil Shahir. Brother Shahir, please let us know a little bit about yourself.
Brother G, thank you so much. I want to thank the chapter for the opportunity to come before the brothers to have this conversation about our inalienable rights. That some people, again, as you stated, fought very hard for, so that to make sure that we have. I am, as Brother G said, Jamil Shahir. I reside in Chesapeake, and I'm a candidate for Chesapeake School Board. I am originally from Nolens, Louisiana. I pledged Dillard University, Epsilon Alpha, Spring 91, 7 Club, right? I've been a resident of the Hampton Roads area for the last 2 years. And as a father of 7, we believe in education in my home. My deceased wife is an educator. I'm a former educator as well. And the things in Chesapeake, while the system may not be broken, it does have some flaws. And I want to make sure that every educator, every student, every school nutrition worker, every bus driver, every janitor is taken care of to the best of their ability by the system that they're employed by. Again, thanks to the chapter for putting this on. Thanks, Brother G, for being the host. And I look forward to the conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Brother Shahir. Next up, and I will throw this out here, I am a resident of the great city of Portsmouth. So this next one is even closer to my heart because it's one that I will have the ability to cast a vote for. The next brother who will be speaking to you and introducing himself is the Reverend Dr. Kelvin Turner. Brother Turner?
Thank you, Brother G. And to the chapter, let me say thank you for this opportunity to be able to share on today. As you've heard, my name is Kelvin Turner. I'm the senior pastor of Zion Baptist Church in the city of Portsmouth. Been married to my wife, Karen Joyce Minor Turner, who's a career educator for the last 30 years. And for the last 15, she's been in the city of Portsmouth we're originally from Detroit, Michigan, and we went to Wayne State University, Gamma Iota chapter, and there I crossed June 10th, 1979. So we've been on this journey for a while. Came to Portsmouth little more than 15 years ago because the church where I pastor, Zion Baptist Church, had a horrific fire. And it burned the building down, and it had been there since 1865. And it was built by former slaves. And the land that the property was on, that we still own, is the oldest owned by African Americans in the entire city. I came here not just to pastor Zion, but to work in the community. And I think we all understand that because we believe in culture for service and service for humanity. And since that time, I've worked diligently in the community. I've served on Ida Barber Board. I've served on Portsmouth Volunteer for the Homeless. I've served on Boys and Girls Club Board. And I've also presently serving on the Civil Service Commission in our dear city. I am running for city council because anybody who knows the history and what's been happening in Portsmouth knows that we have been a little dysfunctional in the last 5 years. And my issue is we want to bring together strategic, stable, and sustainable leadership that can move Portsmouth further. And our motto here at our church is that we're here to develop godly leaders to transform the community. And I had to answer that call by being an example for our people. So again, thank you for this opportunity to share on today.
Thank you so much, Brother Turner. And then last but not least, another brother Sigma. Uh, and it's funny, I'm going to repeat some of the titles again. Reverend Dr. Brother Ron White. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Brother G. You've asked us to introduce ourselves?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm Brother White. I am a native of Norfolk. I attended Norfolk Public Schools for elementary school, for middle school, high school, turned around and went to Norfolk State University, taught in Norfolk Public Schools, and then went back to Norfolk State University to teach. So I am pure Norfolkian. I crossed in Beta Sigma in fall 2010, thanks to Brother G. What brings me to wanting to run for Ward 7 school board in Norfolk is that I have seen some real issues in equity and access. We have about 3 schools in Norfolk that people really want to get their children into. They're excited about getting their children into these schools. However, they are based on a lottery, which means lots of students don't get the opportunity to get this very fine education that's offered in these 3 out of 52 schools. And the question is, well, where did they go? And what happens when our children are not selected for the lottery, or even if they are selected, they're disqualified at some point? You know, I believe that all children should have access to quality education, to quality school experiences, and it shouldn't be based on some random draw. Regardless of where you live, regardless how much money you have or don't have, you should have access to a quality school. I close there, brother.
Thank you, Brother White. Thank you so much. You know, as a father, as a servant myself who's served in many committees, I think it's important for us to be part of our communities, not apart from our communities. I told the mention earlier how there is so many people who are disenfranchised with the thought of voting. I want to ask the 3 of you, and we'll go in reverse order this time. Why do you personally think that it's important for individuals to express themselves by participating in elections and voting? So, Brother White, first, please.
Well, you know, the school board is interesting in that, you know, we are all stakeholders. We all, whether you have children or not, we're all stakeholders in what our schools are doing for the community. It is a right to be able to attend school and a privilege. And, you know, we have to have voice. We have to use our voice to ensure that, you know, students have access to the best education they possibly can have, because again, it affects everybody. And so it's so important that people get out and vote and understand what the issues are with respect to the school system, because again, it's going to affect you in the short term, in the long term, whether we are producing a nurse that might, take care of you when you get sick. You may not have children, but you want medical professionals to be knowledgeable and skilled. And so regardless of whether you have children, that we are all stakeholders in the business of education. And so that's why it's important for every community member to get out and vote, particularly in my case for diligent and responsible school board members.
Thank you. Now, Brother Turner, your thoughts on the importance of participating in the voting system?
We can be victims of society and watch things happen and then talk about why they happen. Or we can take our role and responsibility to realize we live in a democratic society. And in this society, we have a fundamental, not only right, but responsibility to vote. And as we share in this democracy, one of the things that we understand is our voting rights. It allows us to determine how our government is governed, how laws are legislated, how policies are shaped. And we're able to choose who represent us. And so if our vote says that if we want to be in control of our future, then we have to get to the polls.
Thank you. And last but not least, Brother Shahir.
Brother G, I'm gonna kind of give a little textbook answer, and I'm giving the textbook answer just because, as I share with you, I just started my PhD in public administration, so I'm gonna give kind of like a little textbook answer here. So some of the importance of getting out and vote is the democratic representation, right? Voting ensures that the government reflects the will of the people. Accountability, right? Elected officials are accountable to the voters. Your civic duty, that's self-explanatory, right? By getting out and vote, you have influence over policy. Voting citizens can influence the way we contribute to the daily lives, right? And then probably last but not least, equality and inclusion. Voting promotes equality by giving every citizen an equal say in governance. So, I kind of went a little textbook there, but those are, why it's really important for us to participate in the voting process.
And we don't mind you going textbook. Within Sigma, we have three principles: brotherhood, scholarship, and service. So you all being here today shows that brotherhood. And if we don't have scholarship, then we're not doing ourselves a true justice. And then last but not least, it's the service that we're talking about today. Now, you all mentioned something that is near and dear to my heart. In particular, two of you are seeking positions on school boards, and the other is seeking position on city council, which controls the purse strings of the school board. With that being the case, how do you all see the current trends when it comes to parental rights, in addition to parental rights, parental involvement in choosing, in particular, the educational material that housed not just within our schools, but within our public libraries? We'll start with Brother Shahir, and we'll run back down.
So that's a huge part in Chesapeake. There are parental groups that are determining or trying to determine what books are in the library, what curriculum is taught, and for a lot of our students, right, school is a safe haven. And it's a part of the village. So you remember the old adage, it takes a village to raise a kid, right? And the school is a part of the village, and home is a part of that village as well. And I think that what you teach your children at home and what your parental guidance is should be what you do at home. And what's done at school should be done at school. Now, being given the political answer, right, we have to take into account all stakeholders. And I understand that some parents may not want their children to participate in certain things, read certain books, or participate in a certain curriculum. And I think that that can be solved with, again, you fill out a bunch of forms when kids start school. Fill out a form that says, hey, I don't want my child to read these certain books. And that's fine because that's your child. I don't want my child to participate in this part of the curriculum. That's fine because that's your child, but it should be offered in school, because again, school is a part of that village. So I don't think that while you should take into effect all these certain parental rights and groups, they should not have the stronghold or well, the stronghold on the system that they want to hold.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm gonna go a little bit out of order, and that's just because of the positions that the brothers are seeking. Brother White, if you could go next.
When you posited the question, I was thinking about the governor who is now promoting Bible education, but not in the sense of trying to be divisive or, inhibit one's religious freedom. He and I believe his administration is thinking that the Bible is literature and there's lots to be learned from seeing it in that way. And so the question is, who has the right to determine that? Well, it is the states that have the right. The federal government is not in control of the state's education. And so this is all more, again, the reason why you have to get out and vote, because, you may put somebody in a position who doesn't share your values and they make changes that affect you and your children. But I think that I'm very much into parents having a voice. As brother just said, that right now what we tend to do is, especially with respect to sex education, the parents are asked if you want your child to participate in this. You don't withhold it from all children. You just ask parents, hey, here's what we're going to be teaching. Do you want your child to participate? And I think it starts there. And I also think, it's important for the community to embrace all of the external community-based programs. For example, Teens with a Purpose in Norfolk allows beautiful freedom of expression. And so, it doesn't always have to happen in school. There's so many community-based organizations that can help out, provide curriculum experiences for our children to explore and move to higher heights. So I think that, yes, parents should have a say. Stakeholders should have a say by voting the right people in office who share your values. But also let's embrace, where the schools lack. Let's embrace our community resources that can help us in so many ways.
Thank you. And let's take a moment to give a shout out to Teens with a Purpose. I'm a
Yes.
former board member at TWP, and they do
Yes.
some amazing work with our kids. It's funny, I was a board member so long ago. They aren't kids, the ones who were coming through the program. They are fully grown adults at this point. Now, last but not least, Brother Turner, I would love to hear your thoughts, especially coming from the perspective of overall governance.
So the question you asked is a very important question. Parental rights in education. One of the things that we also have to remember is that there's an undercurrent. So it's not just asking what are their rights. And I think we all ought to have rights. However, I am deeply concerned when some have rights and they want to impose on my child. That's not necessary fact and truth. The issue for me is when they want to hide history or bleach history. That's a deep concern of mine. And so what we've learned in our communities all along was we had to teach our children. And we taught them in our home, we taught them in our churches, we taught them in our community, and we must continue to do that. However, there is an undercurrent that wants to reverse what history has taught. And I think we have to fight against those regimes. Some of them plant themselves as parental rights, but what they're doing is re-education. And so I think we have to know the difference between the two. And yes, I think wholeheartedly, parents are the main stewards of their children's learning. And we need not to forget that. Um, uh, my wife and I, we're blessed to have three children now, three grandchildren. And I remember when my son was in the second grade, he had a mimeograph paper and it came with some misinformation about Christopher Columbus. And so I went over it with my son and we sent it to school and he gave the right answer. And then, according to what the encyclopedia, he gave it to, and the teacher said, I don't want that answer. I just want the answer that we have on this sheet, which called for a parents teachers conference. And one of the things I said at that time, and she didn't understand it because it was pretty much a majority school system, is I said, the education process is my wife and my responsibility. We pay tax dollars so you can assist us in that responsibility, but that is our responsibility. And so I want us to always remember parental rights is the foundation and the basis for all of our kids' learning. Thank you so much.
That's so well said. I've been blessed to the point where I could send my kids to private school for a while. Being a public school product myself, ultimately that's where they were going to end up and did end up. And I believe one of the key things that you all talked about is that parental involvement and where parental involvement has its place. As we talked about people being disenfranchised on the voting system, people are also disenfranchised in government overall. Government and with school systems being a offshoot of that. Um, as we look at getting parents involved and students involved, what do you all see as the best means for more people to be involved in their local communities, in their governmental system, not just at the time to vote, but also boards, commissions, all of these opportunities to get involved. And Brother Turner, I would love you to go first. Like, if you were to receive the support of the city, how would you empower the citizens of the city to be more involved in the processes going on?
Great question. I think, first of all, we have to realize that I'm not called to power. Whoever's on city council is not called to power just because of who we are. We're called to power because of the people. And our functionality ought to be based on doing what's best for that community. One of the best ways we find out what the community wants and desires is to bring them to the table. And we don't spend enough time bringing them to the table. When we look at the political process and when people are not voting, what the people are saying is, you're not touching my issue. Our job is to touch their issue. And so one of the ways that we intend on doing that is making more public forums with the people on particular issues. And so it don't come straight from council, but we're engaging the people. One of the things that I believe has contributed to some dysfunctionality in our city governance is we have programs that's a platform for one term. I think our city needs a 30-year term, a 30-year plan. And so then you begin to elect individuals who can help you achieve that plan. And then you're inviting the people to be able to decide, are those the individuals that can bring that to a fruition? So it's not that individual's plan, it's a community plan. And so as we're looking for development on the waterfront, as we're looking for curing some of the ills of public safety, as we're looking forward to building education, it's important to have parents, stakeholders, and the community. And I would invite them to be around the table in every decision that we make.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Now, Brother White, a similar version of this question for you from an education standpoint. We know the importance of parent teacher, PTA, parent teacher associations, or even PTSA, parent teacher student associations. What do you see as an educator and as someone seeking office for a school board as a way to get that village that Brother Shahir mentioned earlier to help raise our children? What do you see to get more community and parental involvement in the school systems?
Well, I first wanted to say that, I myself, in particular, I'm a very engaged parent, but I have to ask myself every day, what about the parents who are engaged, in terms of making sure their children have food, buying school supplies. They may not be able to come to the PTA meetings. They may not be able to advocate for their children in terms of looking at their grades and determining, as one parent just did, that the grade calculation system that the city uses was calculating their child's grades incorrectly. And so they advocated to have that looked at and fixed. And so we have to, remember that all children don't have parents engaged at the same levels. And so because of that, we have to have things in place to assist children whose parents cannot be engaged at the level of other parents. And one of the things that I believe is important is to have community schools, or centers of excellence, people call them. I even like this idea of a parent resource center. So students whose parents, whose English is a second language for them, should be able to come in and have somebody who can communicate with them and find out what's going on with their child. I just learned that, students who are English language learners flunking out of our schools at abysmal rates, and I understand why. Also, we need to have these parent resource centers for parents who they just don't get the memo. They don't get all the information. For example, NSU has a program where you can go to school for free for 4 years if you live within 50 miles of the school. And so, parents don't know this. And so there ought to be places where parents can go and even get support, mental health support when things get stressful. Social workers, school psychologists should be available on site, and parents and everybody should have access to that. So engagement means to me so much more than coming to the PTA meeting and helping to raise money. We have to be engaged, and the schools have to be engaged with the parents to support them, in their journey through life, and to try to deal with some of the difficulties with housing and food and transportation. And because we're surrounded by all of these services, but for some reason they're not connected and they're not wrapped around the school. So I believe that community schools or centers of excellence is one way to tackle and increase this level of engagement.
Oh, thank you for that information, brother Shahir. I would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I was trying to collect my thoughts here. Involving parental engagement, the community. So one, you have to open the communication channels. So having regular updates, newsletters, emails, text messages, whatever it is, that we're going to make sure that we're just having open communication on student progress, announcements, whatever that, but making sure that it's regular, accessible communication, phone calls, parent teacher conferences, as one of the other brothers mentioned. Each school should have a school app, a web page that has all this information on it, so that we keep kind of everyone involved. Then we also need to form parent-teacher partnerships, right? So the parent-teacher conferences, as one of the brothers mentioned, and then also having some volunteer opportunities for parents to volunteer in the classroom, at some of the school events, at the extracurricular activities. Community events and programs, right? Have family nights, literacy nights, math nights, STEM night, all sorts of nights where, again, you're engaging the parent as well as the community. But then, because our society is now a lot more diverse than what it was, have cultural celebrations. So organizing multicultural events that celebrates the diverse backgrounds, right? And then you have to have like some school community partnerships where you're involved in the local businesses, but then you're also doing some community service projects where you're engaging the students and the families and the community to come out and be a part of the community. And then parent education workshops. So you have workshops and seminars that may include, how to help your child with the homework, or help them understand the curriculum, or maybe just addressing some behavioral issues, right? And then having a parent resource center. I think one of the brothers mentioned that, having a parent resource center. And then just that inclusive decision making. So you have a parent advisory committee. So again, all of the stakeholders are a part of the decision making process, and then having some surveys and feedback. So we always want to know, hey, if we're doing it right, let's keep doing that. If we're doing it wrong, let's get rid of it, or let's fix it, so that we can get it right, because we can't keep making mistakes with our kids, especially with their education. So, and including those things, I think that we will definitely include. We'll have more parental engagement, as well as the community.
Thank you. And so, as you brothers talk about engagement and getting others involved, one of the things that deters people these days from getting involved are safety concerns, both within the community and even within the buildings of the school. Um, as a parent myself, I often worry. I remember the first time my child came home and talked about a active shooter drill, and the way it made me think of how that is the reality today. Starting with you, Brother Shahir, when it comes to safety, how do you feel we can better protect not only our students, but also our faculty and staff? Oh, you went on mute, Brother Shahir. Sorry about that.
Having more community involvement. Again, the more people are involved, the more they're engaged, and it's not, oh, I just dropped my kids off at that building over there, right? If they know the principals, they know the school nutrition workers, if they know the bus drivers, if they know the student resource officers, the vice principal, the librarian, the more engaged we are, the more that building is less foreign to the community, is less foreign to our students, is less foreign to our community. And when just kind of going into like a building where it's a place where it's well lit, hey, less crime is less likely to happen in a well lit building. So having everybody engaged in that is bringing more light to that building, which in my opinion makes that building safer.
Thank you. Brother White, same question for you. Thoughts on how we can uh, keep our not only our students but our faculty and staff safe.
Before I address that, I just want to say one quick minute. Brother Shahir brought up something very important about the significance of parent advisory boards to really add that input and engagement. So I do want to also, put that out there. That's something that I hope to push for if elected. In terms of school safety, I think it's important to be proactive. Number one, I would like us to focus on mental health, the mental health of our children who've suffered so much trauma, so much loss, and they're reacting to it. And they're reacting to it with violence. They're reacting to it with, you know, let me say this real quickly that it just crossed my mind that much of the school violence that I'm hearing about is actually happening in the neighborhoods and kind of filtering into the schools. And what I'm learning is that one way that we can address this is by using alternative discipline practices or methods like restorative justice to teach them how to problem solve, to teach them how to communicate, teach them how to feel vindicated without violence. And I think that is teaching young people how to self regulate. I think that's an important component and teaching them how to deal with their trauma and mental health. And in terms of the staff, I think that staff and teachers also have mental health concerns. They also deal with trauma. And some of this is a result of management and school officials and school administrators who are not trauma informed and do not use trauma informed management practices. So I think that when we all put mental health and trauma as a priority and teach our young people how to self regulate, give our teachers some tools, our schools will consequently be safer.
Thank you. Now, Brother Turner, when it comes to your perspective, I think not just within school, but safety in general, how do you foresee our community, we taking back our communities, I guess is one way of putting it, and being a more safe place to live?
I think one of the things that we have to look at is how does violence occur and the escalation of violence. I read a book where it talked about how it starts off with name calling, and then it was, sticks, knives, and now guns. One of the things that I think we have to look at is violence is here, but it's also being created every day and is creating younger and younger and younger. And so we have to have at least a twofold plan. Number one, how do we deal with the violence that we have now? And I think we have to be able to look at some experts in those fields. Some of our major cities have been able to solve some of the issues of gun violence in their communities. One of the things that I would do in the city of Portsmouth is I think with all that we have and the monies that have come through, I think we need a crime czar. I think we need someone who can look at all the best practices, and instead of looking at groups who have limited funds and just throwing money at them, have that crime czar manage all of them together and bring all the stakeholders together to be able to deal with how do we as a community begin to look at the history of crime in our communities, the court system in our communities, the youth programs that we have in our communities, and all the stakeholders. I think the other end is what we do realize is relationships matter, as Brother Shahir said. And we need to start with relationships. One of the things that we see with gangs a lot of times, it's not just that they want to be a part of a gang, they really want to be a part of a family. They really want to be a part of something. And I think our community organizations have to do a better job of working with the community so that we have year-round programs for our kids. And when we talk about, as Brother White said, that a lot of that stuff escalate from the community, it's not necessarily just the blocks that we live on. It's that online community and that online bullying. And so we have to have individuals who are going to be a part of that to teach us how to use that in a more positive way, in a more enriching way, in a more encouraging way, as opposed to the toxic ways that ends up with violence and crime.
Thank you. And so as we talk about violence and crime, and I think the online component is a really important one, especially given the election we're seeing this year. We as a community, we as a country have shifted to a style of politics and a style of discussion that's downright reprehensible. And it's really hard to tell who are truly leaders in the way they're acting. I'm going to give a quick plug. Tonight, Phi Beta Sigma is actually hosting a discussion on Project 2025. It's going to be hosted by the international president, Honorable Brother Chris Ray, a brother with some roots right here in the 757, having family living in Norfolk and having attended law school at the College of William and Mary, as well as our international director of social action, Brother Malwan Johnson, and the vice chair of the NAACP. So I encourage everyone to Well, it's not tonight. I'm sorry. It's on the 13th. It's next Tuesday. So I encourage everyone to register and sign up and listen to that talk about politics and talk about Project 2025. And Project 2025 itself goes to a lot of what we were talking about earlier on two different sides. One, who's deciding what our families are going to learn and be able to do? And then two, planning in advance. So I'm going to actually take it to that direction, the planning in advance, and how it's critical for us not to look at today, but look at tomorrow. Um, what do each of you think we can do as individuals to combat the potentially low voter turnouts that many are forecasting us to see in this upcoming year? Brother White, I would go with you first. What do you think we could do to combat this?
Well, first, I'm wondering if this is still going to be true given the recent turn of events. I think that we may not have to do much in this case, given that, at least on the Democratic side, there have been major changes. And so, but I think that, again, having platforms like this where we encourage each other to vote and constantly reminding each other in our communities, in our families, barbershops, wherever it is, about the importance of voting. I think it's just a matter of each one teach one, as they always say. Each one share with one, and we use our spaces and our platforms to do that. I've never had, even though I don't have hair, I still get my beard trimmed and groomed weekly. I never had so many conversations about the election in the barbershop. It's like every week that these brothers are they have concerns and they have questions, and I think as long as we continue that dialogue and support and educate one another, the message will get out there. Also, I've noticed that even at the university level, students are getting out there through the NSU Urban League chapter. They are really being diligent about helping people get out there and making sure that they are registered, even if they decide not to. There are opportunities to push people to get registered. At the end on November 5th, you decide what you want to do. But at least if you change your mind, you are registered, you're prepared to cast your ballot. So I think, just again, conversation. I think having all of our organizations push voter registration will be two wonderful vehicles to try to increase participation in that way.
Thank you. And I will put the disclaimer out. We did prep these questions prior to the changes in the election, but I still think it is an important question to ask about. So, Brother Turner, I'll ask you as well. Because one thing I will say too is, even though we may not see as low a voter turnout as we saw in the past, we often will have people who don't cast their full ballot of votes. They may cast the top of the ballot and not the others. But local elections are the most important elections. So, with that being said, Brother Turner, how do you think what do we do to combat the potentiality of low voter turnout and low voter participation?
Good. Like Brother White, I think we've gotten a great surge in the last 2 weeks. But what we have to also be careful of is that you can have a surge and people still not come to the polls. And so we have to be on the forefront of pushing it at every level. I am thankful for this platform tonight. I am thankful for the platform that we're going to have on next Tuesday with Phi Beta Sigma. But we have to make sure that every element and every organization that we're a part of, that we're pushing it. We have to push it in our churches, but it's not enough for me to push it with my members. I need to tell my members to share it with their families, members, to share it with their friends, so that we constantly going out. We need to be on the college campuses via social media, pushing it that voting matters. And so it's not just an issue of you just need to show up at the poll. We need to show them how important just one vote is, and how important every vote, that they understand that every vote counts. What we do know is what we're looking at as Donald Trump. He probably would not have been president the first time. if it wasn't such a low turnout, particularly in our communities. And so we have to be able to share with them how much control and power we have with the vote. And again, every means and method that we can, we need to begin to do it with our young folks, our young adults, and those are the ones that we really got to get the message out with. And I think we have to have young adult forums. I think we have to have young adult chats. I think we need to have the meet and greets with the young adults in particular, so that we can increase that strength. In our community, particular Portsmouth, one of the things that we say is our seniors are out there and they are voting, and that's good news. But we need to realize that we have to have the next generation and the generation after that also at the polls. Thank you.
So well said. As a Portsmouth resident for the past, 17 years, our seniors don't miss.
Mhm.
They don't miss. Now, my generation, we only miss a little bit. We shoot pretty straight, but the next generations are the ones we really are gonna have to work on. So, Brother Shahir, you represent a city that's a little bit more diverse than the other two as well. So, what do you think about voter registration and not just the registration, but actually showing up on Tuesday or before?
So, so Dr. Turner, he mentioned how important like one vote is, and if anybody kind of looked into our new vice president candidate, as governor of Minnesota, he got all of his policies through for his citizens of Minnesota with a one vote majority. And everybody voted, and he got all of his policies done for education, mental health. He was able to solidify all of his programs with a one vote majority. So for all of those who think that, hey, my vote doesn't count, trust me, our new vice president candidate just showed us that it does. But some of the things that we also need to do, like, yes, registering voters are important, but we want to make sure that they're educated voters, not just voters, because I mean, you can listen to a lot of stuff, and we talked about the online communities, and if you listen to the wrong stuff, you would go out and not be an educated voter. You would just be a swayed voter by something that you may have seen on TikTok. So definitely having voter education type seminars and programs to make sure that we're not just registering people, we're actually educating them to vote. Access to voting, expanding early voting so that people aren't standing in lines and then they're shutting off the lines on election night. And that's some of the stuff we did in Chesapeake to make sure that early voting was expanded, making sure that people got mail-in ballots, and also same-day registration. So to make sure, again, that we're combating this low voter turnout, access to voting, community engagement. We've been saying that kind of all night, doing some voter mobilization campaigns. As Dr. Turner said, again, some peer-to-peer outreach, making sure that the community involved. We want to make sure that we leverage technology, right? Using the online voter registration, voter reminders, using the interactive tools. So we want to make sure that, again, that we're leveraging that technology to make sure that we're getting educated voters out to the polls. We want to address voter apathy. Reduce some of the barriers for the marginalized groups. We talked about the seniors, but sometimes, they can't get out, making sure that again, that community engagement, that some of the community organizations are providing rides, or just making sure that, hey, you get to the poll. Your civic league is saying, hey, take somebody to the poll with you when you go. And then we have to celebrate voting, right? We have to make it a big deal. the public recognition, right? Just making it a social event, having parties to celebrate voting. Because again, if we don't see the pot of the gold at the end of the rainbow, we're like, yeah, why am I doing it? So those are some of the things that I think that we have to do to make sure that we can combat this low voter turnout.
Well, here's the amazing thing, my brothers. This is called Sigma Virtual Hour, and we've actually been on for 50 minutes already. It pains my heart that we're almost out of time. But what I want to do is I want to give each of you up to 2 minutes to say your piece. One about why you are seeking office. I know you started with this, but I would love to hear a little bit more about why are you seeking office, and then two, why is it important that everyone that's able become educated on and participate in our election system. We'll go first to the brother I brought into this fraternity. We'll go first to Brother White.
Yes, you did, brother. I appreciate you. I got pleasant memories. But again, I just want to remind everybody that we're all stakeholders. This is everybody's business. We are all affected by it. As Brother G said, the local elections are the most important because they impact us the most. And we want to show up. We don't want to complain, about when changes happen and we should have, could have, would have told those stories. We just want to be out there and be present and use our voice to advocate what is best for our communities. So many changes in terms of housing and in Norfolk particular, jobs, whether or not we're going to get a casino, what happens to the money, if we were to go that direction, streets, violence, so there's so many issues. But in order to make a change and see a difference, it's important to really consider who you have advocating for you and whether or not those people represent your values and interests. And that's the way we do it. That is our democracy, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful when we participated in it fully. In terms of why I'm asking to be elected to the seat for Super Ward 7 in Norfolk, again, I believe that every child should have access to a quality education and a quality school. Our governor is now moving to a ranking system where schools will be rated as distinguished, or I believe they will be on track, off track, or in need of intensive support. I don't want to see Norfolk having schools that are ranked, well, only 2 or 3 of them are ranked distinguished, and the rest of them off track and need intensive support. That's just not going to look good. It's not fair to hardworking people who send their children to school every day, hoping that they get a quality education. All of us are not fortunate to be able to homeschool our children. I mean, I would if I could, but it's just not a luxury that I have at this point. And so I want to make sure that my youngest is able to go to a school and get a quality education. And not only mine, everybody's. It's just a civil right. A quality education is a civil right, I believe. And so on that note, that's why I asked for support. That's why I'm asking for your endorsement. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Brother Dr. White. Next, Brother Shahir.
Brother G, thanks again. I want to thank the chapter for putting on the hour. And when you said we were at 50 minutes, I was like, no. So it went really fast. Again, I'm Jamil Shahir. I am running for Chesapeake School Board. I am the very last name on the ballot. And I made sure that was a part of my thing, right? And I'm running because I care. And my slogan, care is capitalized, and it's C for community engagement, A for academic excellence, R for fiscal responsibility, and E for equity and inclusion. And I think that because Chesapeake Public Schools is the largest employer in the city of Chesapeake, I think that we have to do a better job of making sure that we take care of the people who educate our kids. We have to make sure that, and some of it is selfish, right? I want to be able to go to the store with 4 pennies and give it to the cashier, and they know what the correct change to get, right? Like, so some of it for me is a little selfish, right? But I also want to make sure that our next generation is able to handle everything that this world has to give. Because they're going to be our leaders, they're going to be our politicians, they're going to be our educators, our engineers, our photographers, right? Even our rappers and our entertainers, right? And I want to make sure that they leave Chesapeake Public Schools with everything at their disposal. Now, you asked why should people be involved, right? It just helps strengthen democracy. It creates positive change. It definitely empowers everyone. But last and definitely not least, it protects the rights and our freedom. Again, I'm Jamil Shahed. I'm running for Chesapeake School Board. I humbly ask for your prayers and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shahir. And last but not least, Brother Dr. Turner. You're actually on mute still, Brother Turner.
Thank you. Let me start with the second part first. We talked about the importance of them being an informed voter. One of the reasons why it's important also because you got a lot of misinformation. You got individuals who are targeting our community with misinformation to keep us apathetic in the voting process. And so, yes, we have to use online technology for an offense, not just a defense, to make that happen. And so I think it's important, and we've already said it, because one, it matters. Number two, you have control of your destiny. Number three, you're able to decide the laws that will be legislated, who will govern you. You're able to see the difference that will be made. And so I think it's important for us always to understand the importance. Why am I running for city council? Again, thank you to the chapter. I am running because I love Portsmouth. I am running because I really do believe in the transformational power of community service and community leadership. Portsmouth is in need of strong, strategic, stable, and collaborative leadership. And I know I can bring that to the table. I believe as a member of City Council, I can help re-image what Portsmouth looked like. And for people to want to not only live here, but to come and enjoy themselves and be entertained here in Portsmouth. To do that, we got to deal with the quality of life and the appearance of the quality of life in Portsmouth. And that's why I will come and deal with the issues of public safety, education, economic development, and affordable housing. And for that reason, I think the city of Portsmouth ought to vote me in for city council. Thank you for this opportunity.
I thank everyone who tuned in. I'm going to take this last opportunity to brag a little bit about Phi Beta Sigma and about the work that's being done in the state. As the state or area director, I put a challenge out to brothers to hold voter registration drives. At the time, it resets every year, June 1st, for anyone who's familiar with it. But June 1st, it was zero Sigmas certified to hold voter registration drives. I just checked a couple minutes ago, and we're at 35 brothers who are certified to hold voter registration drives earlier today. So here's the thing: we aren't doing this by ourselves. Who cares if Sigma can hold voter registration drives and not register every voter that's possible? I was on the phone with my colleague from Alpha Phi Alpha, and we're organizing voter registration drives across the entire state amongst all the organizations within the Divine Nine, the Natural Panhellenic Council. So I look forward to engaging with each and every individual we see on the street to make sure they're ready, not just to vote, but they're informed. So here in our local community, we're going to be putting in that work. We cannot endorse candidates as a nonprofit, but I look forward to engaging and challenging each one of you brothers when you are elected this fall. Um, you're my brothers, but then you're going to be also our representatives, so we're going to hold you accountable, and we look forward to it. I'm speaking it into existence today. Now, you notice I have two logos on my screen right here. This is the Beta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, the host for today's virtual hour, where we are a minute over already, so I do apologize. And then the second logo is for the Beta Sigma Foundation, our nonprofit arm based here in Portsmouth, Virginia, serving the Southampton roads. More importantly than that, the foundation has a upcoming event where we are raising funds for the foundation, and in part to benefit the Wesley Service Center in honor of brother John Hatcher, who for many years served as the executive director. So we encourage you to visit our website summer.betasigma1914.com and purchase tickets to our second brunch. We held one in the spring, or if it was in the winter in February, where the proceeds went to benefit our youth auxiliary, the Sigma Beta Club, where we mentor young men between the ages of 10 and 18. So we hope to see you all there. But again, let me bring it back to what we were here for today and thank those brothers who joined us. First, Brother Jahil Shahir, who is seeking office in Chesapeake City School Board. Next, Brother Ron White, who's seeking office in the Norfolk School Board. And last but not least, Brother Kelvin Turner, who's seeking office for Portsmouth City Council. I thank you all for joining today. Please feel free to look at the historical videos that we have of other Sigma virtual hours, and we look forward to engaging you all very soon in our next Sigma virtual hour. Have a blessed night. Thank you.
Thank you again. God bless you.